We are so excited to have Sanjiv, Augustine, and George Lively here. They have offered to provide us with a workshop on 3 steps to AI-powered product discovery. It's going to be a blast. I have been a longtime fan of Sanjiv. Lightspeed is where I learned how to be a safe program consultant, and and it taught me safe and was a great extension to my agile knowledge. And I've always found them to be one of the absolute best places to go learn about any new frameworks, especially in the project management and product management world. Sanjeev is the CEO of Lightspeed and the Agile Leadership Academy. He is an entrepreneur. He is an expert and a keynote speaker, like he is today, an author, and he has over 30 years of experience in the field. So we're blessed to have him here, along with George Lively, who is the VP of Emerging Tech for Lightspeed. He also has 2 decades of experience, a lot in Agile software development, concentrating heavily on extreme programming and coaching teams in software development and prototyping alike. So I'll leave it to you all. Thank you so much for being here. We're really excited for the workshop.
Thank you, John, and welcome everybody. I hope everyone can hear me. Give me either a visual thumbs up. Fantastic. All right, so I'm Sanjiv Augustine, and I'm joined by my colleague, George Lively, who will be helping us with some of the technical aspects of the demonstration later on, and also Maggie Spivey, who will be helping us with some of the logistics in terms of the discussion. And then we have a couple of other Lightspeeders, including Bob Payne and Kate Christiansi, who might be joining us. And they might be heckling us or they might be cheering us on. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is to share my deck and get right into our presentation over here and start to talk about our 3 steps AI-powered product discovery. All right, so John, thank you for that wonderful, generous introduction. The only thing I would add over there is a couple of resources. If you're from the portfolio management community or background, you might want to take a look at our book, From PMO to VMO, Value Management is the Rage, particularly when we look to bring together project management with product management. The other thing that if you could check out is the new podcast that I've launched. It's called Leadership in Flux, and it has to do with product leadership and organizational leadership and executive improvement, if you will. George, anything to add to your introduction?
No, I think that covers it all. I put my LinkedIn profile in the chat, by the way, so feel free to connect with me if you'd like.
All right, fantastic. And if at any time you have difficulty seeing the slides or hearing me or George or any other issues, please feel free to bring it up, either call it out, come off mute and call it out, and or put it in the chat, and someone will alert me and we will fix it right away. All right. So you heard about George and myself. I would like you to tell us a little bit about yourself. So who's in the audience today? And particularly if you could go to Mentimeter, you can scan the QR code that you see on your screen, or you can go to menti.com and use the code at the top of the screen, 25187239. Would love to hear how experienced you guys are with using AI tools. ChatGPT, Figma, Copilot, fantastic. Looks like folks are using them daily, or at least fairly comfortable, and just a minority of folks are brand new to these tools, which is great because we're going to be talking about how to integrate these tools and apply them to the whole process of product discovery. All right, so lots of folks using AI tools regularly. That's fantastic. We're going to be using some of them directly in our presentation, so you'll recognize what we'll do and be able to take it and run with it right off. Here's our agenda for today. We'll be talking about a goal of customer-centric agility. One of the things that we have to realize that when we are building products, it's important to have an outside-in view of that product. And for that, we need to be customer-centric. And then we need to pair that with being outcomes focused. So a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today is about that customer-centric agility, which is an outside-in view, and which takes a very outcomes-focused approach to what we're doing. And so paired right off with that, many of us come from a background of product delivery, but paired right off with that is something that we call product discovery. So when we have product development, there is a dual track or two tracks that we need to have going. One is product delivery, and then today we're going to be talking mostly about product discovery. And then we'll talk about how to accelerate that product discovery or power it with AI. And three things over there: accelerate with the AI, hunt for the unexpected insight, and then humanize and test bold ideas. All right? So I love this quote from Ash Moria. If some of you might remember him, he's from the Lean Startup community. He's written a couple books. His favorite book, or my favorite book that he's written, is called Running Lean. It's very practical. It's about lean product development. And he has this quote. He says, "Life is too short to build something that nobody wants." And yet we have, in many of our organizations, feature factories where we're churning out these features, we're building products, and nobody really wants them or uses them, and we don't really change our customers' behavior or bring our customers success. So our goal with what we're doing over here is to try to change that and build something that our customers want and need. There's some interesting statistics that are sort of sobering that this particular chart from the Standish Group shows that the rate of feature usage, and this is about 40,000 projects and products worldwide, close to 64% or 65% of the features are rarely or never used. So clearly we're building a bunch of stuff that people are not using, and we need to improve by building the right thing. Understand what our customers need, and then build to that and discover what they actually need. All right. So the first thing we have to figure out is, why is this happening, right? Why are we building stuff that nobody needs or nobody wants? And why do our products fail? On the screen on the right-hand side, I have a picture from the Wayback Machine that reminds us of perhaps one of the biggest product failures ever. It's an easy one to pick out. It's called Iridium, and this was a Motorola-backed project where this Iridium company went out and built a bunch of phones. They launched 66 satellites, and in today's money, that would be about $10 billion. And the entire product and project ended up failing. So clearly, one of the things they failed to do was figure out whether there was actually a market need for what they're building. If anyone remembers the Iridium satellite phones, they went out and created these satellites, and the idea was, this is of course pre-cell phones, that people will pick them up and use them, and they came up with a hefty price tag. They were bulky. You can see how bulky they were. And it turned out that there's really no market need at that time. Now, since then, I think they've turned it around and they've been able to get some sort of salvaged, some sort of value and return out of that particular effort. But at that time, it was a $10 billion failure, or the equivalent of $10 billion. So one of the things we have to figure out is, how do we hone in on understanding whether there's a market need for our product or not? And if you're able to determine that, then we have to make sure that the product that we develop actually meets what our customers need. And that's what we call a product market fit. And our products fail when we don't have validation of this product market fit. Other reasons: misalignment between stakeholders and execution teams, ignoring feedback from users, and doing any sort of real world testing. Now, these are all things with which AI can help us. So I have a couple more down here in terms of reasons of product failures: weak marketing, and then also just overall investment and cost model issues. But at least that first stack over there, these are things with which AI can help us. All right. So let's establish our goal. I said at the beginning that what we want to do is to make sure that we are taking a customer-centric view that is outcomes focused. So here is Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the company, of course, that makes ChatGPT, and he's talking about how to get to customer-centric agility.
The cycle here is basically talk to customer, understand pain point, build product to address that, get that in front of a user, see what they do, and then repeat the cycle. And this cycle is how you iterate and improve. The law of compound growth being what it is, if you can get 2% better every iteration cycle, and you have a chance of having an iteration cycle be every 4 hours or every 4 weeks, and you compound that over the course of a few years, you get in very different places. Make it one of your top goals to build the fastest iterating company the world has ever seen.
Make it one of your top goals to build the fastest iterating company or organization or department that the world has ever seen. So iteration, of course, is going through our processes repeatedly and repetitively so that we get better and so that we can converge on that product market fit and build what our customers actually need. So what we want to do over here is, of course, define product discovery. So how do we get to customer-centric agility? How do we iterate towards better product market fit? Let's talk about what product discovery. We use this term, and now let's sort of put in a baseline definition. We don't do product discovery in isolation. So what we want to do is to build on our track record of excellent delivery. Many of you have implemented agile methods, I think, and John mentioned some of the agile methods like the Scale Agile framework and SAFe. That's all the delivery track. And what we have over there is iterations or sprints, time box, where we're getting things done and delivering. But the question becomes, what are we delivering? And to deliver the right thing, to build the right product, what we do with this thing called dual track agile is to set up a parallel discovery track. So we actually have both discovery and delivery, and we're doing both of those things in parallel so that we can actually converge on the right thing and deliver the right thing as quickly as possible. All right, so it looks something like this. If you've seen any sort of product management schedule or milestone or map or a very high level view, if you will, where we're putting together a discovery track with a delivery track. We have those 2-week sprints. If you're using agile methods to deliver those things, we have a product backlog. This is what our product managers are managing. This is where we keep the list of prioritized features. We prioritize them. We pick the highest level prioritized features and we deliver them in chunks, in increments within our sprints. So every sprint has a sprint backlog, which is nothing but the highest priority features peeled off from the product backlog. So if you're familiar with agile methods or product development methods, I think you've seen most of this, if not all of this, all right? So that's our parallel discovery and delivery. Now let's get into a little more detail about what discovery looks like and what are we talking about here.
Fundamentally, if you break product discovery down, first principles, it's all about reducing risk. When we start with an idea or an opportunity, there is a high degree of uncertainty, there's a lot of unknowns, and therefore there's a lot of risk. And through discovery, we do a series of activities like research, like user testing, etc., to gain confidence that this is really truly a problem that is worth solving, and that this solution to that problem is ideally the best solution that we could come up with. And in doing so, we reduce the level of uncertainty there is because we learn more about the thing and ultimately reduces risk.
Okay, so if you're looking at reducing uncertainty and lowering our risk and learning more about the problem and then learning more about the solutions that we want to spin up, this is what we're talking about. We have to balance desirability, which comes to us from user-centric design, feasibility, can we actually do this? Is it feasible from a technical point of view? And viability, does it make sense? Can we actually accrue any sort of return, whether it's return on investment or some sort of financial return? So in discovery, what we're talking about is rapidly testing our assumptions, uncovering opportunities, and determining the best solution to the problem after we've validated the problem. We're going to minimize waste, we're going to assess our product risks, and we're going to embrace rapid experimentation. And then what we want to do is to make small bets and test ideas and assumptions responsibly. And then what we do with those tests is if something comes back and it's validated, that's great, we'll take it and move it forward. If something comes back and it's invalidated and it proves not to be of customer value, well, that's where we really need to get rid of it and terminate it and remove that product idea or feature idea, all right? So here's a poll for you guys, another poll. I want to know what are your biggest challenges with product discovery? Who's doing discovery today, and what are your challenges with product discovery? Same thing, if you wanted to use the QR code or go to Mentimeter. All right. Lots of pressure to deliver. Wow, we're still keeping it high over there. Unclear customer needs. Maybe you don't have direct contact with your customers. All right. What about 32 or 50 people? So I would actually like you guys to talk about this a little bit. In the chat, let's take that first one that's come to the top, pressure to deliver rather than learn. If you clicked yes or that, or you registered that as a problem, as a biggest challenge with your product discovery, I would love for you to put in the chat, what are some specific problems that you're having? Is this pressure coming from top down? Is it from your customers? Where's the, why are you being pressured to deliver rather than actually learn? Or why are you not accommodating any sort of learning into your cycle? So if you can add in the chat, tell us a little more about that pressure to deliver rather than learn. Why have you mentioned that as being the biggest challenge? Pressure from top management with a smiley face. Does that mean that you're in top management? Brian D'Souza says pressure comes from the process. That's a great observation or insight. If we have a process that's singularly focused on delivery, then it's going to be very hard for us to officially bring in any sort of discovery, right? So we do need that dual track agile process that I mentioned. Process has no space for experimentation, okay? Too many jobs, too much work in process. People are maybe multitasking, all right? There's always a push for speed, which in of itself is not bad if we're speedily delivering the right solutions to market. But otherwise, it's going to be garbage in, garbage out, and we're just delivering stuff very quickly, but we're delivering junk to market very quickly. Competitive environment, yes, absolutely. From an entrepreneurial place, pressure to make money and keep these, yeah, that's the reality that we live in. All right, thank you for sharing those insights. Certainly gives me and us a little bit of a guidance as to the real life challenges that you might be facing. So if indeed we establish that product discovery is a good thing, we want to put it in parallel with our delivery, we need to make it part of our practice and process and institutionalize it, then the question becomes, how can we use AI to power that product discovery? So we have 3 steps over here, and let's get into the first one, which is accelerate with AI. So we're talking about taking that product discovery process and accelerating it. Now, I'm assuming that all of you, or if not most of you, have some sort of iterative validation where we're starting with an idea, we figure out whether that's a viable idea, we fund it, we move it over to some sort of prototyping, if you will, even if it's like loose mock-ups, and then we break it down into requirements. We see the agile terminology over here that we're using. We're using the term epic, which is a high-level requirement. Then we break that epic down into a feature, which is a medium-sized requirement. And then on the delivery side, those break down into user stories, right? So we go from epics to features to stories. And as we're going through this series of discovering the work, delivering the work, this is still fairly manual, and it's not optimized yet, right? Even if we bring in things like design thinking to figure out what our customers really need, we do that build, measure, learn for discovery, and then we have the agile delivery. So our legacy prototyping is more where we have the idea, we go off, we get funding, then it goes through a series of organizational silos. Like there's planning, there's discovery, there's a handoff, there's design, and then there's engineering start. And there's more of a throw it over the wall kind of process where we're doing this, even if you're doing any sort of prototyping. And what gets built at the end may or may not have any relation to what our customers want it for, because we're losing things in translation. So it's a sequential process. It's, it follows what we call the old waterfall, and it's very sort of error prone and document heavy. So we're relying on product requirements documents, and anything that doesn't get captured over there is either becomes outdated or actually doesn't enter our solution. So that's our old way. Hopefully you guys have found ways to optimize some of this. But you see the use of prototypes, or the lack of the use of prototype, in the beginning, and it only sort of becomes prevalent towards the very end of this process. Now, let's look at accelerating this with AI. We have this gentleman by the name of Andrew Miller, and he's got a very sort of in-your-face type of video over here, but I'm going to play it for you because he really talks about how product managers and those in product management can accelerate that prototyping process using AI.
Talk to 20 customers in a single day, transcribe and synthesize with AI actionable findings by dinner, and then ship those updates the next morning. This is what product discovery and rapid, iterative, agile shipping should look like with AI. What used to take an entire research team a few weeks now takes one person a single day. That's true. The talent stack is collapsing. The PM role used to be one thing, and in big orgs, it would get siloed down to just really being a backlog manager in Jira. Now, a PM can jump between design, marketing, product management, and even a little bit of engineering. If you roll up your sleeves, dive into Cursor, or maybe a little bit of Lovable if you're not comfortable in Cursor, a PM can do all of that stuff. So Max, co-founder at Windmill, is making some good points. He starts out this post by saying he's not planning on hiring a single PM from Windmill. That's clickbait. He's going to hire PMs eventually, but this is a small company. Again, I posted about another small company yesterday, Hayfen, and they're not hiring PMs. That's Lovable, but they'll eventually hire PMs. Windmill's a small company. They're not hiring PMs right now, but the point he's making is that a PM is a lot more than what it used to be. It's no longer a backlog manager, and this is what agile, rapid product discovery looks like with AI.
Okay, so we have this gentleman telling us what agile, rapid prototyping looks like with AI. What you see on the left-hand side is, of course, that lean startup build, measure, learn cycle. So even if we did it in the old way, more manually, we could build something, we could measure it, we could learn. Now what we have is the acceleration through that process, the build, measure, learn, where we build something, we measure it, we learn, and that's happening in the matter of hours and not days or weeks. All right. So now we have a modified process where we have prototypes that are used throughout our entire discovery and right from the very beginning. So even when we come up with an idea, we're going to test that idea out by putting out a prototype and checking to see whether it works or not, whether our customers like it or not. And then we'll either validate or invalidate the idea over there. And then as we get to planning and discovery and build, we'll continue to use prototypes right until when we actually start delivery, where our engineers will now begin with prototypes ready and take it forward. All right. So why are we doing this? Instant prototyping provides faster insights and reduces risk, right? So by using these prototypes, using AI to tremendously accelerate how quickly we can put them together and actually generate really good quality prototypes. The old way was we rarely had any sort of prototypes before design, but now we have instant prototypes from prompts using Lovable or Bolt, and George is going to use Bolt to give us a demo today. And then we can start to do what companies like Airbnb have done all along, where they've been using machine learning to examine data, to analyze data, but then they prototype very rapidly. Right? And so if you're familiar with Airbnb, they created this thing called Airbnb Experiences, and that was a use of AI all the way through, right from using ML for analyzing data around booking behaviors, but then also rapidly providing prototypes for experiences. Okay. Validation, early validation, as we've seen all along in these videos, and folks talk, old way was a reliance on documents and PRDs. Now we're going to test these prototypes early and often. An example is Spotify. If anybody uses Spotify, you guys have been familiar. You would have seen this thing called Discover Weekly pop up a few years ago. And it's really awesome because it sort of looks at your usage of Spotify, and then sends you recommendations on a weekly basis. Okay. Now we start to get into some of the caveats. And the caveats is, as great as AI is, as wonderful as it is in cutting out a lot of fluff, helping us to accelerate and automate a lot of repetitive manual things and build very rapidly, we still need our human creativity. And so while AI might accelerate the first 80% of our discovery, human creativity still delivers the last 20%. You're going to see a lot of things pop up in the media where we're talking about AI and how the solutions of AI are just the same. And I won't say it drives mediocrity, but it drives a sort of homogeneity where things are very homogeneous. People are working in different groups, but everybody comes up with a similar solution. So that's not going to win in the market, right? So what we want to do is to start from these validated prototypes, but still leave room for human creativity. And we're going to talk a little more about that as we go along. But at this point, we're going to move out of lecture mode and get into an interactive mode. We have a mural. We have a mural where you guys can take a look at some of the things around this demo app. So what we've come up with is, a demonstration application. We'll call it WhatsApp. I think this is Bob's idea. And we have a little bit of a cooking show approach here where we are starting with the vision. So here's a vision for the demo WhatsApp, and we're saying, hey, it's uniting smart devices, solar energy, and it's empowering every home to be intelligent, efficient, and sustainably self-powered. So this is our demo, and we're going to pull you guys in to come up with some personas or analyze some of the user personas that we've come up with, and George will build us or talk us through a build of the actual prototype using Bolt as we get towards the very end. And we'll have a couple of discussions as we go along. So here's here are the details around our demonstration app, WhatsApp. The features, we want to be able to turn sunlight into savings. We want to unify our smart home. We want to be smarter by design, and we want to do good effortlessly. So this is the kind of why, if you will. So we're going to use this as an example, as a sample, and WhatsApp now. What I want to do is just get a quick poll from you guys. Who is using ChatGPT today? If you could pop that in the chat. Who's using ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude? All right, so lots of folks using ChatGPT. So we wanted to make sure that we could run this and avoid any sort of network failure, if you will. So what we did is just did a screen capture here. But basically, what we did was to create a query for ChatGPT that had those features that I showed you, and just created a little slightly elaborate prompt, and then drop it into ChatGPT and said, give us the personas. So if you've done product development for a fair amount of time, you know what we want to do is to be customer centric. We come up with personas, and customer personas, or user personas, allow us to deeply understand what our customers may need or what they want. And now we can use ChatGPT. So I'm going to play the actual screen capture where I just take the prompt, I pop it into ChatGPT. So this is in a Google Doc or Word doc. There's the prompt, your role, your action, the context. There are the features. We threw in about 4 features over there. Then we said, here's the format for the persona. and some guidelines around creating the persona. And so WhatsApp came up with 3 personas: eco-efficient Emma, tech-savvy Tom, and budget-minded Bella. So we're going to give you, in your hand, these 3 personas and ask you to do some analysis. Right? And what's that analysis going to look like? What we'd like you to do is to look at these personas. We're also going to put it on a mural board. I'd like you guys to have available. Maggie, I think, might already have put the mural board in the chat. If not, she can do it now. And then you guys can go to Mural. You'll have the personas available to you. And what we're going to do is to put you into breakout rooms. And in your breakout room of maybe I'd say about 3 people each, Maggie, if you're going to help us create the breakout rooms. In your breakout rooms, pick one of these personas and just discuss, what's driving them, what frustrates them, and then what would make this application, this app that we came up with, indispensable for them. And then also, how might AI make that experience better, smarter, or simpler? And then if you could just record what you're discussing in some sort of a digital document, and when we come back, I'll just ask you to paste them in the chat. All right. Well, welcome back. Let me stop sharing for just a second. So maybe we get 1 or 2 of you guys to present your discussion. Maybe somebody from that group that joined us early, maybe Brian and team. You're on
Brian's got our notes.
Oh, that's me. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about Tom, the tech guy, what's driving them. He's driven by control, data, performance. His motivation is, better control, better access, ease, better insights, having multiple systems together in one place, home, car, different devices. What frustrates him, when the Wi-Fi goes out and there's lack of connectivity, things go offline, other frustrations, interconnectivity of apps, duplication of data versus integration. What would make the WhatsApp indispensable? If it's a one-stop shop, it makes it easy. It works on all of his different devices. It's secure. There's some sort of backup if the Wi-Fi goes out. And how might AI make the experience smarter or simpler? If it's, agentic and kind of knows what to do with what app, if some problem happens and just fixes it for him, or querying data for recommendations, fixing it when something breaks, alerts when there's an issue, make recommendations, push notifications and updates, notify him of things he cares about, know what subscriptions he has and how much he's spending on the tech. Those are just some initial, brain dump ideas for Tom.
Great, thank you. Bob, looks like you had great discussion and you're talking about budget-wise Brenda. Can you share?
Yeah, I mean, if any of the other roommates want to pitch in, please do. But yeah, we talked about budget-wise Brenda. She's going to be a late adopter in all likelihood because she's not as tech savvy as the other 2 personas. But she's really focused on cost savings, ease of use. It's got to be a good user experience. And if the app is not easy to use when she joins, she's probably going to drop out. Emma and Tom are going to be more tech savvy. We identified the need potentially for an installer persona because some of these smart home devices are going to need to be installed. And if we want to sort of push the use of the app, the smart homes out there, And for the AI, really thought that in-app chat feature to walk through and explain things to Brenda, but also possibly explain some of the more complex workflows to Emma and Tom would be valuable as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob. Ajit, your group had, you said our take. You want to share a little bit about Tom particularly, because folks have talked about other folks?
Yeah, so actually, there was a lot of, not discussion, but sort of brainstorming, and where I was able to, put through what all three personas would be requiring.
Mhm.
So, Tom and Emma needs to be, they're more on tech part actually. So, nothing, but Emma would need help in the things actually to manage her sustainability goals. And Tom is basically tech savvy, so he would need, to get him out from the chaos and give him powerful controls, basically more advanced control. And that is what he wanted actually. And he wanted to also, do some sort of customization. That is what Tom, because he's tech savvy, so he would like that. And Brenda, on what Bob said, I agree to that because she wanted a simplification. So if something simplification can be done by this app, then it would be great. So these are the three takes from my end.
Fantastic. All right, so we pull it together. I just want to sort of recap what we just did. We had that pre-canned query about the features. I went and put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was able to really accelerate the creation of those personas. But we're not just going to blindly take what ChatGPT, or we shouldn't be blindly taking what ChatGPT gives us, or any other LLM for that matter. Some people are using DeepSeek, love that. So what we want to do is to take that and always make sure that we have, if you've heard this phrase, a human in the loop. Whatever we're doing with AI, we always want to validate that. We always want to keep a human in the loop. We certainly want to use AI to accelerate and automate, but we're going to keep a human in the loop to ensure creativity, and also to make sure that we're using AI responsibly. All right? Okay, so I'm now going to jump back to our PowerPoint. We'll cover a couple more slides, and then what we'll do is get you guys back in another breakout room exercises pretty shortly. So what we've done now is you've analyzed the personas, and at this point, typically what we do in product development is we'll go off and make sure that we can create features, right? So an important part of product development is always having customer empathy. Actually, empathy for not just customers, but for our users, our team. It's a great quality to have, right? And we won't be able to get to that unexpected insight, if you will. So as we're analyzing these personas, what we're trying to do is we're trying to humanize the personas to get to the real needs, wants, and desires of the people behind those personas. And the next thing that we're going to do with our AI-powered product discovery is to hunt for that unexpected insight. We have the personas, we have some features, and then what we're trying to do is to use AI correctly, responsibly, and wisely, and not fall into some of the common traps. So a common trap is that AI will surface averages and obvious solutions. Even the models sort of borrow from each other, if you will. The learning comes from, from all of the things that are loaded into the models, and most of us will see pretty much the same thing, right? So we're not going to get the breakthroughs from an AI-generated persona. What we're going to get the breakthrough from is deeply delving, using those AI-generated personas, looking for surprising but counterintuitive insights, and understanding how people use these applications. We need to understand how Brenda and Tom and our personas are going to be potentially using our application. So an unexpected insight comes to sort of radical change, if you will. So you can look at examples like Snapchat, where the whole concept of messages fulfilled a deep need over there where people just needed to disappear those messages, and now you see that even in applications like WhatsApp and all that you can see, you can have disappearing messages. Started with Snapchat, understanding that people wanted to just a transient sort of messaging application. There are unexpected twists that come about, and if all our competitors are all using AI, some form of the AI or the other, then we have to figure out how to use our human creativity and brilliance and avoid any sort of homogeneity, if you will, that everybody sees the same thing. So wise product leaders are going to say, what would surprise our customers? What would be different for them, and what will sort of drive them in a particular direction, and what would change their behavior? This is what we're looking for. We are almost looking to changing our customers' behavior so that they can start using our app and it can deliver value to them, right? So here's a question for you guys. Who watches Netflix? Give me a thumbs up or put a yes into the chat. Netflix? Any Netflix watchers here? Who's paying used to be $7, but it's pretty much more expensive now. So we got a couple of yeses. Netflix. So confession time. Who binge watches on Netflix? So we watch Netflix, but who binge watches Netflix? Occasionally, yeah. Right. Time to time. So it's several years ago, Netflix came up with this auto forward type feature where Maddie says you only binge watches. Okay. So that's true. Actually, I'm only a binge watcher too. So when I have time, I'll just go and binge watch my favorite serials, if you will. So I didn't realize that I'm just kind of like a monkey on the wheel, if you will. There's something that Netflix had put in that forced me and drove me towards binge watching, and that's that autoplay feature. So Netflix, as you know, for even the previews as well as for the episodes, and if you're watching a serial, once you finish, it'll just autoplay and jump into the next episode. Well, this is a very carefully calculated and thoughtful type feature that's put in. But look at this. This is from Reddit. This is a guy who actually was a developer on that team that built the autoplay feature of the next episode. And you see what I've tried to highlight the things that are that I'd like to stand out over here in bold and the couple of sentences in red. Autoplay massively increased the hours watched. Now, what is hours watched? It is one of the KPIs, right? So when we talk about experimentation, when we talk about validation, we have to make sure that we are always building in some guardrails. This is not just some wild shoot some stuff at the wall or throw some stuff at the wall. We're validating our product in response to some guardrails. And those guardrails that Netflix used were two things. They had two KPIs, key performance indicators, hours watched and retention. And so teams could come up with ideas and they could build it out, and they didn't really have to justify. You look at this, what this gentleman is saying here, they didn't really have to justify whether a feature was going to be good or not. They would just test it out. They made it really easy to A/B test, right? Different versions. And they just built this autoplay, and they figured out that it was amazingly efficient or impactful in moving the hours watched. Now, I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not saying binge watching is great, but for Netflix, it's great because the more time they have us locked in, they're going to make more money. They're going to keep us there, and it's unlikely you're going to cancel their service when they raise the price. As you know, they will absolutely do it. So this product team was using this ability to experiment, and when we are experimenting, including with the AI, we always need to make sure that we're using the guardrails and running the experiments in line or in concert with KPIs, right? So key performance indicators, some sort of guardrails. And that said, AI can't generate the spark. Only we can find it, or I say usually, or maybe mostly humans must find it. So a common trap over here is to assume that AI's output is the best solution. Not so. We want to validate that. We want to use our human creativity. Here's another example of a feature. I'm a customer of Uber, and again, not one I like, but obviously when you need to get to the airport in a hurry, or you need to get to where you need to go in a hurry, we end up paying more. And Uber has the surge pricing, where they reframe user expectations, and we have changed behavior, and now it's just sort of expected. And of course, Uber makes a lot of money, and hopefully the Uber drivers make some percentage of that money as well. So we're talking about using AI in ways to accelerate what we're doing, but then also making sure that we leave place for human creativity. And we need to hunt for that unexpected insight. So I have this quote before I throw you guys back into a chat once again, or excuse me, into a breakout room once again. Wisdom grows from reflection, not just automation. We can automate with AI, but our wisdom that comes is like using that automation, using that input, and reflecting on what we're doing, and then understanding what our customers need and how we can improve on those. All right? So let's see, how are we doing on time? George, Bob, let's see, 1:30. We have half an hour left, is that correct?
Yep, half hour.
Okay, so let's do a short 10 minutes over here. I think we'll be making good time here. Another breakout room, this one will keep to 10 minutes since everybody knows how to use Mural at this point. Around the features, which are also pasted, I'll keep the slide up. Somebody just reminded me that we have YouTube users who can't see this, the mural, or may not be able to see what we put in the chat. So I'll keep the slide up. Here's the discussion that we want to do. We have features over here, and 10 minutes in the breakout rooms. You want to discuss with your group members. What's the emotion behind the feature? Where's the friction or the frustration? What's the hidden job to be done, right? This is what we're trying to get at, that unexpected insight. And then how could AI surprise or delight? So go ahead and put your insights, anything that came out from the discussion, pop it in the chat. And I don't know that we can spend time discussing it, but would love to hear what went on in your breakout rooms.
Well, we had a conversation about what Tom, the guy that we were discussing before in our break room, might be concerned about, which was security, data protection, vulnerabilities in terms of the technology and software he uses to control his things at home. And that's his main frustration with it, that one of his main frustrations is going to be security, and the other is going to be optimization of the tech itself. Mm-hmm. And the hidden job to be done was basically, we were talking about additional features for his appliances at home, like his refrigerator. And that was basically we continued further with the AI surprise or delights. That was, again, the task with additional features and optimizations. The other group members will probably have a thing or two to add.
Okay.
So following up with Dimitri, so we talked a little bit about if the refrigerator was able to, which is in the US, can detect what the food is there in the refrigerator.
Right.
And if you are grocery shopping, can it predict what food for you to purchase based on what was not there? And also depending on what type of food you've been eating and your nutrition habit, give a little bit more specific recommendations to your grocery cart.
Fantastic. All right, so we're going to move on. Thank you for that feedback. And there's great stuff in the chat. People are talking about contextual assistance, agentic AI, and a lot of the hidden job to be done, making seamless as possible. All these things are great. That comes from human analysis of what our LLM has created for us, right? So now what we want to do is to get to the last bit of our presentation here, which is our step 3, which is talking about humanizing and testing those bold ideas. So we've come up with some analysis. We've used the personas. We're looking at for unexpected insights. And then one of the things that we want to do is, let's say, these the whole thing about being a little more technical or understanding that the security problems, or there's an opportunity here to take this and scale with it. Well, how can we test bold ideas based on this particular app that we've come up with? Right now, if we were just doing the product development in a conventional way, this would come only after we have something out in the market. Now, what we could do is we can use things like analysis. If you think about Amazon, all of us have used one-click buy. Well, at one point it seemed unnecessarily, why would you have the one click? But it turned out to be a huge convenience factor and a huge revenue generator for Amazon. Underlying all of the things that we're talking about is this idea of human empathy, right? We need to make sure that we can understand, we can empathize with our customers, not just understand, but empathize with our customers. And if we don't have that, we just do safe incremental type development. So once we have that empathy, we can test out those ideas and push things out. Like, for example, Apple used validation, extensive validation of Face ID, and Slack pivoted from a failed game to messaging after testing some flows. So we're talking about using that capability to develop personas, do the analysis, and then come up with a prototype that we can test out very quickly. So I'm going to turn over now to George. George, tell me when to click. Ooh, am I not sharing?
Well, I'm going to take over sharing, I think.
Oh, no, I can just do it over here. But can you see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Okay, Bob said I'm not sharing. Okay, so tell me when to hit go, unless you want to take over the screen.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take it over. Because I was playing around with it earlier and I was dissatisfied with the user experience. So I think I'll just do this myself. So anyhow, Sanjiv mentioned earlier that we would be doing this demonstration with Bolt. I mean, there are lots of different AI tools out there. When we saw in the chat earlier that many of you are very familiar with a bunch of different tools. And of course, it's obviously important every time you choose to tackle a certain task that you have the right tool available to you. Bolt here is an AI-powered development environment, and it takes some simple language and can transform it into a ready-to-critique, web-ready prototype. And what's really great about it, I mean, going back in my bio a little bit, I was really excited doing Agile that suddenly we could get something in front of customers after just like a couple of weeks of development. But what we can see here, and of course, all of you who've been using AI are readily familiar with, is that you can shorten that time frame, eliminate a lot of friction in the development process, and get something in front of customers in a matter of minutes. So what I did here, and this is a video of what this looks like, is I took all of the stuff that you've seen in the mural and in the PowerPoints, said, I want to create a prototype for an app called WhatsApp. This is the tagline, some product summary, put in really all of the rest of the information that was in there. The personas, the basic features, you have feature 1 there, 2, 3, and 4, and let's build it. And you can see that it immediately starts acting on it. It says it's going to create that beautiful production-ready prototype. And here's a plan that it's already getting ready. You can see that it's going to set up a database schema and create some authentication system, build out a main dashboard, and do all of these other things. And after really just 5 minutes, you see something beautiful emerge right here that is immediately available for people to critique. Okay. And this is all clickable within the web interface. I can go into this dashboard here and start really recognizing that all of the features that were inputted and the personas are reflected over here on the right. The dashboard, if we start scrolling through, will have all of the things about solar production, home consumption, all kinds of things. The solar energy insights are going to be in there, and you'll be able to see, how much of the current production there is, today's total, what's going on for the whole week. As we discussed in my room, there's not a lot of control that we have over the sun, but maybe we can gain some insights as to what's going on in the house in solar production. You can look at the different devices and have those consolidated in one place. And one thing that's really nice here, this came again after just a few minutes, is you can start clicking around in here and toggle things on and off. Now, there's not, after a few minutes, any real functionality behind this, but we can get this in front of customers, say, is this more or less what you were looking for? What are some other things that you might want? Maybe there's some other things that you want to filter on, or maybe some other things that you want to add, the colors or whatever. And we could then, after a couple more minutes, say, this is really great, but maybe we want to tweak something here. This particular part of the app, the devices part, we would like to make sure that there's a little something in there about maybe some other kitchen appliances. Whatever it is that you want to do, we could iterate on some of these things. And instead of waiting weeks or months before we have a really solid prototype that is then something that we can turn around into a working system, we might have something after a few hours that's been through multiple iterations along the way. Okay. I know I saw something in the chat that a picture's worth 1,000 words, but a prototype's worth 1,000 meetings. Just imagine that this prototype being worth many thousands of meetings could deliver value after a few hours. That could be like 20,000 meetings instead of over several months or maybe even years. You can really weed out some bad ideas, strengthen your good ideas, and get something that is really worthy to present to the market after a very short period of time. Okay. The integrations are all in here. We're able to see some of those things related from that feature and manage some things. And again, this was just 5 minutes to something that is really fairly attractive, and you wouldn't be distracted by some of that noise that might be in some really rougher prototypes that would take a lot longer. It's really important to eliminate that friction. Okay? So that's it. Any questions about that?
Part of the prompt, absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about that, George? Was there anything special in the prompt?
There wasn't really anything special in the prompt, but I can go all the way back to the beginning and show you that really the thing that I put in here was exactly what you were seeing in the slides and in the mural. So you can see that I'd say I want to create a prototype. There's the name of the prototype. The tagline came from this slide. There was a product summary in the slide. And then I had word for word the profiles that were in there. And then again, word for word, the features, each bullet point that was in there. And then I just hit build now from that.
All right. Brian has my favorite question. He says, prototypes are awesome for ideation, but should never be considered as production ready. Could you comment on that? Don't build AI slop is what he's saying, right?
Right. And I 100% agree with that. as I mentioned at the beginning of this, you need to make sure that you pick the right tool for these things. I think that Bolt is amazing for putting together really functioning wireframes from this. But when it comes time for the rubber to hit the road, for real development to happen, that's when I would go to real development environment and start building things using, correct, proper software development practices. For me, I would make sure I have a really good solid bed of automated tests, unit tests, really great coverage. I would make sure that I have good separation of concerns. I would be paying attention to security and avoiding any of the OWASP top 10 and a lot of those things that are customary for building true production worthy code and taking them through a good CI/CD process. This isn't part of that, in my opinion.
Thank you, George. So we have, I think, about 4 minutes left. So I'm just going to, we were going to have another exercise, but we're just going to skip over that in the interest of time, see if there's any other last minute questions that you guys might have. So here's our 3 steps. Use AI to accelerate discovery, hunt for the unexpected insight, and then humanize and test bold ideas, whether using Bolt or other tools. I think John had a question on whether you can use Figma. Certainly, we can do some upfront prototyping using Figma and then use that in conjunction with Bolt. Right? If you're interested in what we've been talking about, there's some classes that we have available. You can certainly go and check those out. There's a QR code over there. I'm going to pull up another. Here it is. If you can scan this code and get a copy of the slides, and you have contact information over there for both George and myself. So we still have 3 minutes left. I want to keep you guys on time and use the last 3 minutes for any remaining questions and answers, Q&A, discussion, anything you guys want to chat about. Now's the time. Well, not anything. Best book on prototype design. Wow. George, Bob, anybody else? Kate? How to measure users' feedback. That's always a good way to think about it. What we like to do is to create a product roadmap, identify the outcomes, and then find some way to digitally collect those outcomes. There are AI tools that will fit into our business processes. So one of the clients we're working now, they have a customer service business process, and they're using a tool called Cognigy. It's an AI tool that fits in seamlessly into the whole workflow and measures the feedback and also then provides insights directly. John has a question. What are you seeing as the number one hurdle to adopting the use of AI in product discovery and development? I would say, I don't know that there's any number one. Everything is moving so quickly, John, and there's so much out there. I'll just throw up a couple of hurdles. I think there's a misunderstanding of what these tools can do. My favorite one, I would say, it's not the number one, I don't know, but the thing that I'm understanding as the biggest challenge is all of us need to understand that AI is a technology, and it's a double-edged sword. There are dangers to using AI tools, and there are the great gains to be had. So for me, it's about making sure that we can use AI mindfully. Let's make sure that we use it in a proper way, not just short term. You sort of have instant gratification when you create all these prototypes, but having been in product development for a number of decades, we have to understand that when we build a product, and we're not just building it for today, we're building it for 5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now. Some of these products might be like still around here 20, 25 years. So they're. With AI, I feel like we're not taking the art of the long view. What would be the outcome of AI automating AI? I don't know. Maybe we should try that out, I think. How to integrate AI prototype with a real product, or will it be separated entirely? But George, could you talk to this? Because I think you do some other, you have a parallel track where you do things in GitHub Copilot as well, right?
Yeah. So I mean, and this is a great question. So once you are done with that AI prototype, you can take the code that is there and pull it into a repository and then start working on it with the real product. I do use GitHub Copilot a lot to do a lot of the back end coding and follow a better software development process the way that I was describing earlier, using AI along the way, but recognizing that there are some pitfalls to even that approach. I don't just take what AI gives me there either.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're a minute over time, so I'm going to stop sharing. John, I think you probably want to close it down. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you. Thank you both so much, Sanjiv and George. It's been fantastic following along. Thank you, Bob, for your help with the facilitation as well and creating those great discussions. Hope everybody had a wonderful time learning. I know I did. And wow. I mean, I have to admit that the process that you all went through, everything from developing personas to then using those personas and the features and the ideation to then jump right into a prototype, and the power that we have when we actually do that little bit of upfront work and the empathy that you kept talking about, Sanjiv. Amazing. I feel like just being aware that it exists, like you said, is one of the biggest hurdles. So I'm going to be trying this out, and I know that there's so many other connections that have kind of persisted through this day, and you all have done such a fantastic job. So thank you again. Thank you everybody for being here. We'll have our final session at 3:15, and it's going to be a fantastic presentation by the Sparklet group. But once again, just want to say thank you to the guys from Lightspeed and Maggie too for helping to keeping the trains on track. It's been a fantastic presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
All the best, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day.
All right. See you all.